Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please stand for the flag salute.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, on behalf of the board, I welcome all members of the audience to this afternoon's meeting. This meeting is a working session of the board to conduct the business of the district. The agenda for today's meeting has been published and the agenda items have been to be discussed. Sorry, let me start over. The agenda items to be discussed and or voted on have been studied by board members. I'll introduce the people here on the dais with me. To my far left is Recording Secretary Cindy Benson, Superintendent Larry Francois, board members Amy Cast, Sandy Hayes, Don McCravey, and Kimberly D'Angelo, and I'm Janet Quinn, and I currently serve as president of the board. Agendas for this meeting, as well as minutes from our previous meeting, are available on the table at the back. If you are here to address the board on agenda items, please sign in on the clipboard that's on the table. I believe it's out in the foyer. And you will have an opportunity near the beginning of the meeting to address us with your comments. The first order of business tonight is the superintendent's report.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I want to begin tonight by acknowledging and thanking the North Shore Schools Foundation, our wonderful partners, for their recent awarding of 43 innovative classroom grants at 23 different schools, totaling nearly $38,000. And the awards range from $200 to $1,000 each and will impact an estimated 12,000 students next school year alone. I want to congratulate Woodmore Assistant Principal Bruce Denton, who's been selected as the new principal at Canyon Creek, so taking on a big assignment there is Bruce. I want to acknowledge and thank our school district students and staff who participated in the American Cancer Society Relay for Life on May 30th and 31st at Skyview Junior High. We had over 500 participants on 50 teams who raised in excess of $140,000 to fight cancer. And our schools, our secondary schools have consistently had a strong showing in this event over the years. I want to acknowledge our 3 comprehensive high schools for their strong showing again in the U.S. News and World Report high school rankings of 21,000 public high schools in the nation and 458 in Washington. U.S. News and World Report ranked Woodinville High School number 13 in the state and number 671 nationally. And Woodinville was also the top ranked 4A high school in Washington state, which is interesting. Inglemoor High School ranked number 44 in the state and number 1,665 nationally. And Bothell ranked number 54 in the state and number 1,979 nationally. And these rankings are based upon student-teacher ratios, college readiness factors, and reading and math proficiency. And I'm sure there's any number of ways you can rank our schools, but it's nice to see them acknowledged in this way. I want to congratulate the 1,543 seniors who will be graduating over the next week and a half and wish them all the best as they move on to new challenges in college, the military work, or other adventures. And I know that graduation will be a proud moment for the families and staff who have supported these students to reach this milestone. I've had the opportunity over the last couple of weeks to meet and speak with several individuals as we seek guidance and expertise to address greater levels of equity, diversity, and inclusion across our district and schools, and I have truly appreciated the generosity and the support and the assistance of those individuals. And a few I would just like to name in particular: Shannon Kelly Ray, Diversity Manager for the state of Washington and a community member, has been very helpful. Malia LaCure from Puget Sound Educational Service District, who is the Director of Equity. Lois Frank, former Lake Washington School District Director of Staff Development, who led their diversity and cultural competency training during her time in the district. Rob Larson and Teresa Dewson of Education Northwest, who we have been in contact with regarding a comprehensive data analysis and facilitation of focus groups. I've also been contacted by several others offering support and assistance, as well as referring us to others with particular expertise and willingness to help. And I do sincerely appreciate all the outreach we've received to help us chart a positive and productive course moving forward. Over the last couple of weeks, I have continued, along with a couple of board members, meetings with legislators to discuss progress on the state operating budget, requesting a reprieve, albeit unsuccessfully, from the biology end of course exam requirement for the class of 2015, and continued work around compensation and levy reform. President Quinn, Director Hayes, and I were able to speak with Senator Hill on May 28th and meet with Representative Paulette on May 29th, and Director Hayes and I met with Representative Springer last Friday on June 4th. Had good meetings, good conversations with both of those legislators. May 27th, along with many board members, I attended the North Shore Scholarship Foundation breakfast, and later in the day, the North Shore Council PTSA luncheon, and both are always great events to celebrate the conclusion of the school year, the great promise of our students, and the wonderful volunteers and the generosity of our parents and community. On June 1, attended the conversations with the board for our Spanish-speaking families hosted at Canning Park Junior High. We had about 25 parents and community members in attendance, and it was clear to me that participants appreciated the opportunity to engage with board members and share their experiences, thoughts, and questions about the district. On June 2nd, most of us attended a school improvement visit at Sorensen Early Childhood Center. Again, many thanks to Early Learning Director Doreen Milburn and the ECC staff at Sorensen and Cottage Lake for all they do to prepare our special needs 3 to 5-year-olds for successful transition to kindergarten and beyond. And the dedication and compassion and hard work of the staff is truly evident in all interactions. And the children are simply wonderful, and Sorensen remains for me the happiest place on earth, despite what Disneyland may claim. Later in the day on June 2nd, I had the opportunity to meet with Gary Wasden, who's the new director of the King County Library System, and we discussed several possible future collaboration activities, including a pilot project being conducted in Bellevue School District next fall that will allow student ID cards to double as King County library cards without having to go through a separate registration process. So we'll be very interested in tracking that and see how that pilot program works. Last June 4th, attended the 2015 North Shore Retiree Celebration. Again, several board members were there as well. To this point in the year, we have 66 declared retirees that represent 1,746 years of service and education, with 1,514 of those served in the North Shore School District. 15 of those 66 were brave enough to actually attend the retirement ceremony with their families, where their supervisors shared words about their contributions to children, to our schools, and to our district. The retirees also all shared a few words, with the common theme being the sense of family and support that they have enjoyed during their time in the district. And finally, earlier today, I had the opportunity to participate in our credit rating calls with Standard & Poor's and Moody Investors Service for our upcoming bond sale. The calls went very well, and we hope to receive affirmation early next week of our currently strong credit ratings, which will result in lower costs over time for North Shore taxpayers. So we'll have more to follow next week on that.
Thank you, Larry. There are some seats up front if anyone wants to sit down up here. Well, the North Shore School District Board of Directors has set aside a period of up to 60 minutes to receive updates and comments from association leaders and citizens from our community. The board expects speakers to address matters related to district operations, policies, procedures, and agenda items under consideration by the board. Comments should not make reference to any employee or representative from the district by name. If interested, there is a complaint process available through the Office of the Superintendent. Please note that because of the public governance process, the board may ask clarifying questions regarding topics not on the meeting's agenda, but will likely defer discussion to a future meeting if warranted, in order for staff to prepare any necessary background information for the board members to review, and for the discussion item to be included on a published agenda for the benefit of anyone else who might have an interest in the topic. Alternatively, a district employee or board member may respond to the individuals offering public comment at a later date. When addressing the board, please state your name clearly for our records. Hopefully the microphone is working well today. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. There is a timer that will sound when your time has expired. Board members sometimes take notes when speakers are speaking, so forgive us if we look away for a moment. We thank you very much for your participation and your comments, and we'll start with association leaders.
Hello, I'm Jeannie Schwenk. I work at Woodinville High School. I'm the president of NSD, North Shore's 480 paraeducators, school assistants, and nurses. Will those who are here tonight to support NSPA staff, please stand. Last month, you heard NSPA members tell you about their lives. They told you about being homeless, trying to pay their mortgages, and not making enough to send their kids to college. We live in a society where racial bias and gender bias are ubiquitous and insidious. In a society where women make substantially less than men, and where African Americans make substantially less than whites, these biases are real systemic problems. They are biases that are part of most institutions in our society. That's why we call them institutional biases. These biases are hidden assumptions which can guide our institutions, but they are not inevitable. We can eliminate them. We are here this afternoon to ask you to eliminate North Shore's institutional gender bias. Here's how North Shore's administration and school boards have justified our low pay in the past. They compare low-paid women's work in our district with low-paid women's work in other school districts nearby. To no one's surprise, they found that North Shore's low pay is about the same as other school districts, except for Seattle, which pays substantially more. The administration has said, we pay you very little because most other districts pay very little for this work. So therefore, it's okay. When someone tells you we always do it this way, and it's okay because others do this, your antenna should raise for institutional bias. It's not about bad people. It's about institutional practices that good people have continued and not questioned. Our state legislature a few years ago created the Compensation Technical Work Group, consisting of human resources experts, to determine what K-12 staff should be paid. These experts decided not to replicate whatever institutional biases or preferences existed within the schools. So they compared the work of K-12 employees with work outside of K-12 done by women and men. Not surprisingly, by including work done by both women and men outside of schools, they found that most paraeducators and school assistants are severely underpaid, and are underpaid much more than other K-12 employees. The study found that most NSPA members need a pay increase of about $6 per hour. Our message to you today is to look at your practices, to question them. Look at the data from the only market study of our work that includes men. Partner with us to negotiate compensation that will pay us what we are worth. Thank you. Please stand. Remain standing.
Good afternoon. I'm Tim Bertel, President of the North Shore Education Association, representing North Shore's teaching staff. Please remain standing with your signs if you're here to support NSPA. We rely on our NSPA colleagues every day. Most of them serve our neediest, most vulnerable students. They teach our students social skills at lunch and on the playground. They nurse their health so they are ready to learn. They teach them to read, write, do math. They are essential to our schools, and our message to you today is to please stop taking advantage of them. We're asking you to phase out the low-pay, few hours compensation model that is grounded in gender bias. Most school districts perpetuate low pay for classified women because they found them to be the group that stands up to fight for their rights the least. Stop taking advantage of this. Examine your assumptions and use the state's real market data that includes men. Phase in the state's pay recommendations. Stop hiring more part-time workers so you can avoid paying benefits. Combine jobs whenever possible so that more full-time work is available. Also, please spend money to create a professional development system with them so that their talents are put to use for our students. I've heard some administrators say the study was about what the state should pay, not the district. So the district should wait until the state funds this for NSPA members? That's a huge misinterpretation and an excuse for doing nothing. It's true the state convened a group of experts to help the state determine funding allocations. But the study results, its data, established what the floor should be for a fair market rate pay. When I went to the doctor this year, I could have ignored the data that I got that I had cancer. The results would not have been good. I don't believe that you can ignore the results from this study 1 minute longer. The data is alarming, certainly, and it needs to be used. It's important to recognize that North Shore, like other districts, has not waited for state funding for other employees. North Shore, like most school districts, supplements state funding for employee compensation with local levy dollars. For example, North Shore pays administrators about double what the state allocates to North Shore for administrators. North Shore also generously provides millions of dollars to supplement the state funding for every group of employees, including teachers. North Shore, not the state, has decided to keep NSPA pay rates 30% below the state's recommendations. Every other employee group is either close to the state's recommended pay rate or already above it. I wonder why that is, that North Shore has chosen to pay those other groups and not this one. To ask the people who are at the bottom to continue to wait is wrong. It's not acceptable. We urge you, once the state budget is completed and the board can evaluate the additional funds that are now available, to make it a priority to phase in the state's recommendations for our NSPA colleagues. To do anything else is to continue a gender-biased, low-pay, few hours compensation model that is not appropriate in the 21st century. If you came here for this brief part of the meeting in support of NSPA, thank you. And if we could meet outside for a few minutes, we'd like to talk out there. Thank you.
Sherry North Shore PTA State Council President. Just a reminder that we're the largest advocacy organization for kids in North Shore School District. So we have kind of a new meeting that we endorsed last night. We had a board meeting, and we wanted to endorse National PTA's resolution against bullying. We wanted also to endorse Washington State PTA's endorsement against the resolution if we don't have one. So we think we might be working on that also, in addition to our foster kid and our discipline resolution that we submitted. So, but yes, we are definitely wanting and looking forward to working together with the district and with you all to find new ways to support. To find a supportive and nurturing environment for our kids in the schools. So although we are the largest advocacy organization, I did find, I apologize, our website is still down. I had to look through about 10 years of paperwork, but so we're working on that problem, and I did find the papers I needed, but I also saw that our membership is declining in North Shore School District overall. Some schools, go up and down, and so we're also willing to be introspective and look at why maybe we are losing members, and if it's communication, if it's the type of meetings we hold, and what kind of fundraising, to see what we need to do differently. So we're actually looking into maybe doing some surveys as well in the fall, and want to be more inclusive and make our boards look more like our schools as well. So the other thing we were thinking too is maybe the definition of parent has changed a lot since PTA was formed 100 years ago, and so it was the parent-teacher organization. But kind of thinking that council, because we're not a local unit, we can kind of be the community's PTA. So that's what we're hoping we can try to communicate back to the families of our community and everyone that lives in our community, that PTA really isn't just for the traditional parent. So
We did enjoy having Karen Orsinger and Leanne Albrecht at our meeting last night to kind of lay the groundwork for a Parent and Family Institute, parent education, all kinds of things for problems that we're facing now, as well as hopefully we'll be able to be ready to face new challenges as well. So we also voted in a new position on our board, and it is the Family and Community Engagement Chair, and that is held right now by Kit Topaz, East Ridge resident. She's outgoing. She's serving us. We fought some other PTAs for her. We're very glad that we won. So she already partnered with Carolyn O'Keefe and Kathleen Poole at the Smarter Balance assessment info nights for the parents, and so we're just so excited to have her on board. And just thank you to all the teachers, all the paraeducators, all the administrators, all the ways that we've been able to partner so far. Amy and I were at Woodinville PTA's meeting. They just created a $5,000 line item for social emotional health. So exciting to us, and it's so exciting that the priorities that we're placing. Bothell High has done such innovative things with the restorative circle of Catholic Youth Court, and now Inglemoor with their the biking time with the struggling learners. It's just really exciting the ways that PTA has been able to partner with the high schools, the secondary schools especially, because those are the numbers of where the members are declining. Fewer and fewer volunteers are doing more and more work each time, and so we just thank you again for all the work you're doing, and we want to encourage you and continue our support for every single kid in the district.
Thank you, Sherry. And now we are privileged to have a student association leaders to address us in that.
Hello, I'm Cassie Rudolph. I'm Tegan Miller, and I'm the Communications Commissioner for the 2015-2016 school year for Inglemoor ASB.
I'm the Clubs and Fundraising Commissioner for ASB Executive Board.
So we're also members of the 50th graduating class of Inglemoor High School. So we are here today to invite all of you on behalf of the entire Inglemoor Committee to our celebration in honor of this. It begins at 1 p.m. and it is on October 10th, 2015. If you all can come, it'll be a very big celebration, and we'll have actually our first ASB president, Sheila, will be there in attendance. So we hope you all can come.
Thank you. All right, are there any other associations that I missed? I don't think so. All right, we'll move right to the public comments, and we'll start with Dan Hamer. Okay, no, that's not right.
Hello, my name is Dan Hamer. I am grateful for the board's willingness to address the issues of racial equity and diversity that are scheduled to be discussed later in this meeting. I also appreciate the plan of action that is being proposed and want to express my desire to work with the board to bring about the much needed changes in these areas. I would therefore like to request that the board consider the following action items as they move forward. Number 1, adopt the plan of action dated June 1st, 2015 as presented by the superintendent. Number 2, supplement the plan of action by including the creation of an independent equity board that reports directly to the school board to deal with issues related to racial equity and diversity. Number 3, fully implement the plan of action by September 2nd, 2015. Number 4, immediately conduct a qualified threat assessment to determine the current condition of the threatening student involved in the Timbercrest threats. And 5, provide a report at the July 14, 2015 board meeting that addresses the learnings and corrective action plan resulting from the external investigation of the Timbercrest racial death threats. I thank you for your consideration of these items and look forward to their quick implementation. No child is safe until every child is safe.
Thank you.
Thank you for the chance to be here. I enjoyed the time I spent here a month ago, and I'm back to also talk about the Timbercrest threat situation. I'm Gordon Mitchell, live in Woodinville, interested in the area, really committed to it. So this is sort of a colloquial sort of comment about the superintendent's work, but I think he made a super plan. And it's a good thing that has lots of stuff in it that we should do. I've taken a little bit of stuff from a guy that you've heard of, I'm sure, Alexander Solzhenitsyn. And I was teaching at the university, or at least doing research work there when they let me do that. And in the year when he addressed to Harvard people, and he said, the people in the West, he's talking about me and everybody else, he said, lack a civil commitment. They even lack civil courage. And then he went on to say crazy things like, addressing me perhaps, you believe that if something is actually by the book legal, it's also a good thing. It's an okay thing. And he said, let me tell you more about that. So those are points that are worth me considering, and I bring them to your attention as well. That in the world we're in, we really do need civil courage and a commitment to getting things done that are right, not just exactly what's legal and then letting it go. And I ask your evaluation of several items that we've seen in that context. Nobody called the sheriff's department at the point of these threats being discovered. There was no immediate threat response. In other words, to evaluate issues like weapons, co-conspirators, and that sort of thing. A code of silence was obvious because no other people had spoken up, as I have seen courageous students do in other scenarios, to say, here's a problem, I've got to tell an adult about it. And also, administrators who just say, we followed the procedure and stopped at that, perhaps hiding behind the RCW, are really not helpful. Someone called an attorney. Wow, an attorney to do threat assessment? That's kind of crazy. And there was general stalling of action and issues that just went undone when they really should have been handled, even though there were volunteers from the expertise in the community in threat assessment proposed to the superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Colin Stewart.
Hello, my name is Colin Stewart. I'm 19, transgender, assigned female at birth, and I was a student of the North Shore School Districts during my elementary and junior high school years. I decided in my 6th grade year that I no longer wanted to deal with the seclusion that I felt from the bullying and name-calling I experienced. So I made the executive decision to waiver out of the junior high I was supposed to go to and went to North Shore Junior High School instead. This did not prove to be any better. Nobody knew me, and I didn't know them. And outside of a friend I made inquire with in the first week of school, I didn't talk to people much. I'm loud and outgoing. I love talking to people, but nobody wanted to talk to me. It didn't happen instantly. It was slow. A person calling me a name, somebody telling me I was too loud, too abnormal, called me a lesbian, and worse derivatives of that. At one point in time, people decided that they wanted to call me Bumblebee because I really liked the color yellow. I learned what it felt like to be tripped in hallways and have our teacher monitor in the hallway tell me I was in the way as I picked up my stuff. I learned what it felt like to be shoved into walls and hide bruises. I learned what it felt like to know that if I volunteered for lunch detention and then went to the library afterwards, I could usually avoid a confrontation. At the end of the school year, I didn't re-waiver and went to Timbercrest Junior High instead. Once again, no better. People called me names. People continued to call me out. Within the first week of school, somebody asked me if I was really a lesbian. The last place I wanted to be while I was at school was school, and when I was home was school. Because when I was there, I was worried about the next time somebody would call me a name, somebody would jab me, somebody would decide that they had the right to push my body around. I told a teacher at one point I was being bullied and didn't know what to do, and they told me, kids will be kids. At another point, I told a teacher I was being bullied and I didn't know what to do, and they said unless I could give them specific names of everybody involved, they couldn't do anything. A teacher pulled me aside as I struggled to keep up with my schoolwork because of everything that I was dealing with, and told me that I was a failure, and that if I continued doing school the way I was, that was all I would ever amount to be, like it was all my fault. In 10th grade, I left the school district after a few meetings with the school counselor at Woodinville High School, and she told me that there was no way she could guarantee my safety. So I left. I went there for 3 days and then left. I went to a high school in Seattle on Capitol Hill called Nova, and they make activism into an art form. They make sure that everybody is safe. The one time I got called a name there, I told a teacher, and within the day, they had apologized to me, and that student was signed up to have repeated meetings for a couple of months with a counselor to make sure that this was not a repeated behavior. Students were asked to leave that school if they bullied other people. The bullying and cruelty that is happening in the North Shore School District currently is not new. It is systemic. It is not concentrated to one environment, one group of people, or at one school. Something needs to be done, because I survived long enough until I was able to run away, but not everybody has that privilege. No child is safe till every child is safe.
Angelina Denver.
Ever need a teacher at Mitchell? Like a Doug Mitchell? I love him even more than you do.
Tilt that down.
He's our son.
Okay. Hi guys, my name's Angelina Denver, and I'm proud foster adopted mother to 5 multiracial kids. I've got kids from all over the place, and I'm just thrilled to be that mom. I love the colors in my family. It makes me thrilled to look at my dinner table every night. I'm really grateful for the board's willingness to address the issues of racial equity and diversity that are scheduled to be discussed later this evening. And I appreciate the plan of action that's being proposed. And I also want to let you know that I'm here to work with the board and to bring about much needed changes in these areas. But I also want to request that the board considering the following action items as they move forward. Number 1, please go ahead and adopt the plan of action that was dated June 1st, 2015 as presented by the superintendent. Number 2, supplement the plan of action by including the creation of an independent equity board that reports directly to the school board to deal with the issues related to racial equity and diversity. Number 3, fully implement the plan of action by the date September 2nd, 2015, which I know is short, but I'm asking for an actual date. Number 4, immediately conduct a qualified threat assessment to determine the current condition of the threatening student involved in the Timbercrest threats. Number 5, provide a report at the July 14th, 2015 board meeting that addresses the learnings and corrective action plan resulting from the external investigation of the Timbercrest racist death threats. I thank you for your consideration of these items. I look forward to their quick implementation. And no child is safe until every child is safe.
Hello, my name is Carrie Bullock, and I'm a mother of 3 students who passed through North Shore School District and graduated from Woodinville High School, and 2 students who are in Bear Creek Elementary slated to attend Timbercrest Junior High. I'm also grateful for the board's willingness to address the issues of racial equity and diversity that are scheduled to be discussed today. I also appreciate the plan of action that's being proposed. I want to let you know that you can count on me for help with those goals. They're important to me. In addition, I want to request that the board consider the following action items as we move forward. Adopt a plan of action that was dated June 1st of this year as presented by Superintendent Francois. Supplement the plan of action by including the creation of an independent equity board that reports directly to the school board to deal with issues related to racial equity and diversity. Fully implement the plan of action by September 2015. Immediately conduct a qualified threat assessment to determine the current condition of the threatening student involved in the Timberfest threats. Provide a report at the July board meeting that addresses the learnings and corrective action plan resulting from the external investigation of the Timbercrest racial death threats. Of particular importance to me that I feel like I have to let go of because people keep telling me, you'll never get that. Don't waste time on that. But I believe in you more than that. I think of you as more human than that, than to ignore what's important to me, and that is the learnings part, that we could get acknowledgement of where mistakes were made and what policies weren't followed, because truly it is your intention to follow them when there's a death threat. I've read the policies, they're there. We want more specific ones, but they are there, such that North Shore security and police officers would be called to the scene upon the attention of the death threats when they were shown by screenshot to administrators at Timbercrest Junior High. I know that's what you want to really, beyond being administrators, just probably parents who've had students at North Shore School District. We have the chance to be unique and different in recognizing what went wrong and acknowledging what policies weren't followed. Thanks so much for your time.